Billionaire discovers an incredible moment at her husband's grave. A black teen's touching whisper leads to transformation. Lydia Cook stood at the edge of the cemetery, the sun casting long shadows over the headstones. A billionaire entrepreneur, she was used to the gleam of skyscrapers and the hustle of boardrooms. But here, in her quaint suburban hometown, the air smelled of fresh-cut grass and blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the sterile, polished environments she inhabited. Today marked a somber anniversary. It had been 5 years since she lost her husband, Nick. She approached his grave, her heart heavy like the weight of the world pressing on her chest. Kneeling beside the headstone, she placed the delicate white roses she had brought. "I miss you, Nick," she whispered, fighting back tears. The grave felt colder than usual. Wealth could buy many things: success, respect, even love, but it could not fill the void that Nick had left behind. Then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed a movement. A young black teenager was kneeling in front of another grave. Mr. Gray's, a beloved local war veteran known for his kindness and bravery. The boy held a bouquet of vibrant blooms, his face a portrait of reverence. Lydia felt an unexpected tug in her chest. Who was he? She had never seen him before, yet his quiet dedication stirred something deep within her. Curiosity ignited. Lydia approached him. "He meant a lot to this town, didn't he?" she said softly, her voice cutting through the stillness. The teen looked up, eyes wide. "Yeah," he replied, a spark of passion lighting his features. "Mr. Gray taught us we're more than our circumstances. He believed in all of us." The boy's name was Jamal. He talked about dreams of becoming a community organizer, a dream woven with hope but laboring under the weight of economic hardship and racial prejudice. As they exchanged stories, Lydia felt a profound shift. She was reminded of a time when she had aspirations, when life was filled with possibility. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they spoke about Mr. Gray's impact, Lydia felt her heart swell with a strange hope. What if they held an event to honor him? A celebration that brought together everyone, young and old, something to bridge the divides in their community? Jamal's eyes sparkled at the thought. That would be amazing. But when word began to spread about their plans, resistance blossomed like weeds in a garden. Town meetings became battlegrounds, voices raised in anger rather than understanding. Lydia felt the burden of her privilege pressing down on her. Would her wealth and influence open doors, or only reinforce the walls that kept them apart? In that moment, as Lydia stood alongside Jamal, the future felt uncertain yet charged with possibility. She realized this was more than just an event, it was a call to challenge ingrained prejudices, her own included. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with each rise and fall of their voices in the meetings, they echoed a hope that perhaps, together, they could weave a new narrative for their town. Would they find the courage to push against the current, or would the struggle dissolve into silence, like the fading whispers of a forgotten past? Lydia and Jamal stood at the precipice of change, a mix of hope and fear swirling in their hearts. They had convened several meetings, gathering people from all walks of life. But just as they began to gain momentum, there came the backlash. It was as if the walls of the town had grown thicker, casting shadows on their dreams. One chilly evening, they stood in the town hall, crowded with voices brimming with skepticism. An older man with a frown etched deep in his weathered face crossed his arms tightly. "What do you know about our community? You don't belong here," he blared, directing his words at Lydia. There was a sharp intake of breath from the crowd, tension thickening the air. Lydia felt her heart racing, the heat of her emotions boiling beneath the surface. She was an outsider, wealthy and well-connected, but standing here felt raw and real, like stepping into the shoes of those she yearned to understand. Jamal stepped closer, his youthful determination a bright flame against the surrounding darkness. "We're not asking to take over. We want to uplift our community. Mr. Gray taught us to stand together." His voice rang with conviction, and Lydia admired his bravery. Gradually, the room quieted, but the distrust remained. Lydia took a deep breath before addressing the crowd. "I know I come from a different world. But I've learned the hard way that wealth doesn't equate to wisdom. I had everything, yet I was lost without the love of my life. This community, your stories, your struggles, they matter. Let us honor Mr. Gray by creating a space where everyone feels valued. We're in this together." Eyes narrowed, some remained unconvinced, others hesitated, pondering her words. But in the back, Lydia noticed a few nodding. Hope stirred in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, they could open minds like a flower blooming in spring. As days turned to weeks, they organized a small event at the community park. Lydia poured funds into transforming the space into a vibrant, welcoming area filled with arts, music, and delicious food from local vendors. Jamal connected with performers from different backgrounds, weaving in stories and talents that reflected their community's diversity. On the day of the event, the sun shone brightly, and families filled the park. Children running and laughing, adults mingling over shared dishes, Lydia soaked in their joy. Here, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't encountered in years. But as Lydia walked toward Jamal to see the festivities, she saw the older man from the town hall standing apart, arms crossed, a hardened expression on his face. With each laugh and cheer, Lydia's heart whispered that this was the moment. But suddenly, the man stepped forward to speak, his voice cutting through the joy like a knife. "I still don't believe you belong here," he shouted, drawing everyone's gaze. For a moment, everything froze. Lydia's heart raced, and dread clawed at her insides. This was a pivotal moment, a test of resolve. Would she let his words crush their spirit? She took a breath, nerves electrified by the reality of the situation. "I'm here to learn, and to support," she said firmly. "Will you give us a chance?" The crowd murmured, eyes darting between Lydia and the man. The tension was palpable. Jamal stood by her side, ready for whatever the next moment would bring. As silence enveloped them, Lydia felt weighty anticipation in the air. This was the turning point they'd been waiting for, and she prayed for it to lead to understanding rather than division. Could they face this challenge together and open the door to a new future? Would their combined voices break through the barriers standing in their way? The crowd held its collective breath, uncertainty etched on their faces. Time felt like it had slowed down, every heartbeat magnified in the charged atmosphere. Lydia's heart raced as she awaited their response. She took a small step forward, feeling the weight of every eye in the park. "I understand your fear," she continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "But we can create something beautiful here. A place where everyone belongs." The older man's expression softened for just a flicker, but the hardness remained. "Why should I trust you?" he shot back, challenging her yet again. "You'll just take our money and leave when it suits you." His accusation hung in the air, heavy and bitter, as a breeze swept through the trees, whispering secrets of hope and despair. Lydia felt the sting of his words, but instead of allowing that hurt to consume her, she squared her shoulders. "Because I've seen the consequences of not caring enough," she said, her voice a whisper yet filled with strength. "I've lost what mattered most to me. My wealth wouldn't mean a thing if I couldn't connect with the people I love or the community that raised me. I want to give back to the place that needs it. To help build a foundation for our children and their futures." The words hung in the air like a melody, sparking tentative murmurs of agreement from the onlookers. Jamal's eyes glimmered with a mix of pride and hope as he leaned slightly closer to Lydia. The man looked skeptical but intrigued. "What do you really know about loss?" he challenged, fingers drumming against his arms. "It's easy to throw money into something, but can you truly understand us?" Lydia wanted to pour her heart out, to share the grief and tumult that had become her life for so long after losing the love of her life. But instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn-out stone, a rock she had found at the beach where they used to go. "I keep this with me," she said softly, holding it out for all to see. "This is a piece of him. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded that love doesn't end. I carry his memory with me wherever I go." An elderly woman from the crowd stepped forward, wiping tears from her eyes. "It's hard to let people in," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I buried my own dreams long ago, thinking I had nothing left to give. But to see you trying," she paused, her voice filled with a hint of warmth, "it rekindles a fire I thought had long gone out." The older man blinked hard as emotions flickered across his face. Lydia could see the tiniest cracks start to form in his stern facade. The murmurs swelled into a chorus, voices rising around her as others echoed the woman's sentiment. Jamal took a deep breath and stepped forward, his own youthful spirit blazing. "We can learn from our past mistakes if we stand together. Just like Mr. Gray taught us." Slowly, the atmosphere shifted. The walls around them felt a little less insurmountable. Lydia risked a glance at the older man. His arms were still crossed, but his brow furrowed in contemplation, signaling something, maybe hope, maybe a reluctant acceptance. Suddenly, the sound of laughter pierced the moment. A group of children, unaware of the heavy conversation, began to dance, twirling and giggling. Lydia watched them, feeling a surge of warmth. Maybe we're on the right path, she thought, but doubt still crept in. What if the moment was fleeting? What would happen when the initial enthusiasm faded? In that very instant, the older man lowered his arms, a mix of vulnerability and stubbornness crossing his features. "A chance," he grumbled, more to himself than anyone. But it was enough for Lydia. A chance was all they needed. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Lydia felt a ripple of change, a delicate thread weaving through the community, binding their hopes and fears together. But questions loomed: would they continue to hold on to that thread? Would they work hard to keep it from fraying? Just before the evening fully embraced the night, Lydia felt the eyes of the older man on her again. But this time, his gaze was softer, more thoughtful. "Let us see if you can really prove your worth, Miss Lydia," he said with an edge of challenge, and within her, hope and fear coalesced as she realized this was only the beginning. What followed would require more than words, it would demand action and unity. Would they rise together, or fall apart? The thought lingered in the air, potent and alive as the night settled in around them. Lydia stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the older man's words crashing down on her. She was determined, but self-doubt nestled in the edges of her resolve. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, yet it felt as though the uncertainty loomed larger than the fading light. "Prove my worth," she whispered to herself, the phrase echoing in her mind, heavy yet urgent. She glanced at Jamal, who looked at her with encouragement. It was time to show them. "Tomorrow morning," Lydia called out, gaining the attention of the crowd once more. "I want all of you to meet at the park again. We'll plan together every idea welcome. I'll bring the resources, and we'll lay the groundwork for our new community space." A few heads nodded. But the older man folded his arms tighter, shaking his head slightly. "What if it's just a ploy?" he asked loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Just more false promises? How do I know you won't disappear like so many have?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, igniting a flicker of fear in Lydia's chest. She couldn't blame them, she understood their hesitation. So many had been let down before. "I won't lie to you. I can't fix everything overnight," she admitted, her voice steadying with conviction. "I'm starting with trust, yours and mine. We'll work hand in hand. But I need all of you. If we don't come together, we'll never move forward." She let her words settle, planting seeds of hope. Jamal shouted, "Together! We can do it!" His enthusiasm rang out, infectious as a smattering of applause broke through. Lydia's heart surged as eyes lit up with a hint of something new, possibility, the elderly woman from before stepped forward again, her hands trembling. "You remind me of someone I once knew," she admitted softly, her voice carrying the weight of years. "He used to say, when the rain falls, we gather our umbrellas, but we don't turn away from the storm. We face it together." Some of the crowd murmured softly amongst themselves as the reminder lingered. Lydia felt tears prick her eyes. Was it possible they could become a band of umbrellas? The older man met her gaze once more, a battle raging within his eyes. It was an opening, a small glimmer of the trust she so desperately sought. "All right," he finally said, his voice gravelly but somewhat softer. "But you better mean what you say." Lydia nodded fiercely, feeling the stirrings of hope in her gut, pushing her forward. "I promise." As night descended, laughter mingled with quiet conversations. The atmosphere buzzed with a newfound energy. Lydia watched the children play under the dimming light, their laughter a bright spot in the gathering dusk. Could they really unite the community? Would they be willing to fight for it? But just then, Jamal approached her, his voice lowered. "Lydia, are you sure about this? What happens if it doesn't work out?" Her heart sank slightly, the weight of his question heavy on her shoulders. "I don't know, Jamal. But we can't be afraid to try. We owe it to ourselves." "Okay, I trust you," he said, determination etched on his youthful face. Then, an unexpected splash of confusion swept through the crowd as a man appeared from the shadows, leaning heavily against a lamppost, his face obscured by the dim light. "Excuse me," he called out, startling everyone. "Did I hear someone say community? Because I have something you might want to know." The sudden intrusion made Lydia's heart race like a jigsaw piece falling into place, but one that felt off. What did this man know? Her pulse quickened, a mix of curiosity and concern flooding her thoughts. The evening had been filled with hope, but now it felt like a storm was brewing once again. "Wait," Lydia replied, stepping forward into the light. "What do you mean?" The man smirked, the light revealing a glint of something dangerous in his eyes. "Let us just say some secrets are better kept buried. Wouldn't he want your little community to unravel before it even starts?" The crowd fell silent, tension thick in the air as Lydia's mind raced. What could he possibly know? And would it threaten everything they had begun to build? As Luna climbed high in the sky, questions swirled like shadows in Lydia's heart, whispering of challenges yet to come. Fear and uncertainty tightened around Lydia like a cold grip. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting from the stranger to her, as if waiting for a cue, a reassurance. She felt the weight of their hopes pressing down, she couldn't afford to waver now. "What kind of secrets?" she demanded, her voice steady, though inside, her heart raced. "What do you know about our community?" The man finally moved away from the shadow, steps deliberate. He looked unkempt but carried an air of knowing that made Lydia's skin crawl. "You trust easily, don't you?" he sneered, glancing at the gathering. "I've seen it happen too many times. Someone comes along, fires up the crowd, promises change and then disappears." Energy crackled in the air, anger rising like smoke. Lydia recognized that fear and suspicion mirrored her own wounds, but she pushed through. "I won't disappear," she insisted, her eyes piercing into his. "And I will make this work. We can build something real together." The man chuckled, a harsh sound that cut through the hopeful atmosphere. "Real, huh? Just remember, truths have a way of surfacing, especially the ugly ones." "What do you mean?" Jamal stepped forward, protective instinct flaring. "What do you know about us?" The man shrugged, feigning disinterest, but Lydia detected the glint of something behind his careless posture. "Let us just say things aren't always as they seem. I'm here to help you see that." A chorus of whispers erupted, eyes widening. What did he know? A knot grew in Lydia's stomach, a dark storm brewing as the crowd began to murmur among themselves. They were slipping, doubt creeping in like a thief in the night. "Look," Lydia said, forcing the confidence into her voice, "if you have something to say, say it. We won't be scared by shadows. We're going to fight for our community, and we won't let anyone tear us apart." The man studied her, intrigued by her fierceness. "Sure, but know this, in every community, there are secrets the kind you wouldn't want to come to light. Trust me, I know." Lydia felt an electric charge in the air, pulsing with tension. Questions ricocheted through her mind. What truths could he possess? And more importantly, were they truths about her? The mood shifted palpably, hope began to waver. She turned back to Jamal, who wore a frown, his eyebrows drawn together in concern. "We need to stay focused," he murmured, though his voice wavered. "What if he's right? What if someone tries to stop us?" They watched the man retreat into the shadows again, as if he were a whisper of doubt drifting away. But Lydia felt anything but relief. Glancing around, she saw the faces of her newfound friends. They were caught in a web of skepticism, their trust fraying. "Listen up." Forcing her voice to rise above the murmur, Lydia struggled to reclaim the moment. "Tomorrow, we meet. We keep our plans strong. Don't let his words derail us. We're stronger than doubt. We're building this together." Slowly, heads started to nod again, but the shadows of uncertainty lingered. Lydia's heart sank a little as fear gripped them. She knew she had to inspire confidence, but could she stand against the looming threats? Just as she thought the crowd had begun to regain some hope, the man called out from the dimness, catching her attention one last time. "Just remember, the past has a way of catching up with you. It's up to you to deal with it." A chilling silence fell over them. Lydia couldn't shake off his words as they echoed in her mind. What could he mean? What secret about the past was hiding in the shadows waiting to pounce? Determination warred with uncertainty as she realized that staring into the face of adversity might be the only way to truly rise. With a deep breath, she met the eyes of her friends again. "Tomorrow, we begin. We face whatever comes our way, together," she vowed, though dread gnawed at her heart. The crowd hesitated but began to disperse, doubt swirling as they walked away, smothering the flicker of hope she fought to ignite. Could they really face every storm that came their way? Or would the very truths they sought to build upon crumble beneath their feet? Lydia hardly slept that night. Her mind was a whirlwind of shadowy thoughts and unshakable fears. She tried to focus on their plans for tomorrow, but the stranger's words twisted and turned in her mind like a knife. What if he wasn't just a random voice of doubt? What if he knew something? Something about her? The secrets of the past clawed at her, but she pushed them down, reminding herself of the responsibility she carried. Morning brought a dull gray light, and with it, a heavier burden. Lydia gathered her notes, her heart beating a constant rhythm of unease. She could still feel the weight of the crowd's uncertainty on her shoulders as she made her way to the community center. It was a modest building, once vibrant but now showing signs of wear, much like Lydia herself. They needed this space to feel welcoming, to be a sanctuary where their worries could fade away, at least for a little while. As she stepped inside, she found Jamal pacing nervously, his hands buried in his pockets. His expression shifted from concern to relief when he saw her. "You made it," he said, a hint of a smile breaking through. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." "I'm not backing down," Lydia replied. "We have to keep pushing forward." One by one, the others trickled in. The air was thick with tension, each face a reflection of uncertainty, each silence pregnant with unasked questions. Lydia took a deep breath, then stepped in front of them, forcing a smile. "Thank you all for being here. I know yesterday was a lot to take in. Can we trust you?" A voice called out from the back. A young woman, not much older than Lydia, stood with her arms crossed. The question sliced through the room like a blade. Lydia's stomach dropped. "I promise you, I'm here for us," she rushed to assure them. "But trust takes time. We just need to focus on what we can achieve together. But what if that man is right? Jamal interjected, his worry evident. What if there are secrets that can tear us apart? Lydia felt her heart race. She wanted to scream that they could overcome anything, that they were stronger together, but the truth is, a whisper of fear slipped through her resolve. Look, maybe we should hear what that guy has to say, someone else suggested. If there are secrets, maybe it's better to know now than later. No! Lydia shouted, her voice surprising her. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. The only power we can give away is the power to make ourselves stronger together. Lydia saw a flicker of doubt begin to fade, but it was replaced by hesitation, the kind that clung and wouldn't let go. The murmurs began again, what the stranger might have known about them, about their community, about her. I trust you, Lydia, Jamal interjected, placing a hand on her shoulder. But you have to understand, we can't ignore this. We need to face it head-on. I know she trailed off. I need time to figure this out. They all nodded, understanding painted in their gazes. Lydia's chest tightened as she thought about the corner they were backed into. Would they emerge stronger, or would they simply unravel beneath the weight of the unknown? As the meeting pressed on, Lydia couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The past loomed closer, shadows growing longer. She was lost in thought when someone mentioned the flea market town hall meeting later that week. An idea sparked in her mind. What if we turn this around? Lydia suggested suddenly. What if we invite him to speak? Get everyone to hear what he has to say. The room fell silent. Eyes widened as the implications settled in. It might just bring any hidden truths out into the open, Jamal said slowly. Lydia felt a surge of hope. They could confront their fears. But what if they uncovered something far darker than they imagined? What if their very foundation shattered beneath them? Sparks of unrest again flickered in the air, but this time, there was determination threading through it. As they moved forward to reframe their past, Lydia felt a strange energy awakening inside her. She just needed to harness it. Could she truly guide them through the storm that had started brewing? Or was her resolve about to lead them into a darkness they could not escape? The days leading up to the flea market town hall meeting felt endless for Lydia. Each tick of the clock echoed her anxiety. She had a million thoughts racing in her head, every one of them tangled like fishing line. But beneath it all, a newfound purpose flickered. She was determined to seize control, to turn their fears into something productive. On the day of the meeting, the sun shone down brightly, almost mocking the seriousness of what was to come. Lydia arrived early, setting up the room to create a welcoming space. She placed chairs in a semicircle, ensuring everyone could see each other. Flowers, which had seen better days, adorned the center table. They felt symbolic, fragile but still beautiful. As the evening approached, people started filtering in. Lydia could sense the anticipation in the air, the low buzz of conversation about what the mysterious stranger might reveal. She watched as faces she knew and some she didn't filled the seats, their expressions revealing a mix of hope and trepidation. Are you ready? Jamal whispered, sliding into the seat beside her. She nodded, though her throat felt tight. I think so. We need to show that we're united no matter what he says. Just remember, he's one voice, he replied, giving her a reassuring smile. We have each other. As the clock struck the hour, Lydia stood and called for attention. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice steady but soft. I know there's been a lot of uncertainty, and we've all felt the shadows of doubt creeping in. The room held its breath, eyes locked on her. Today, we invite a stranger to speak. He may bring truths that sting, but I promise you this, we can face it together. This is a space for honesty and understanding. The murmurs picked up again, some supportive, others skeptical. Lydia pushed against the tide of discomfort, holding on to the flicker of hope growing within her. Just then, the door opened. The stranger walked in, his worn-out jacket contrasting sharply with the warm light spilling into the room. He scanned the crowd, his gaze settling on Lydia. She felt her heart quicken, the air thickening with tension. "Thank you for having me," he started, his voice deep and steady. "People tend to fear what they don't know. I'm here to offer some truths about our community that will raise questions but will also set you free." Lydia felt the collective inhale around her as they hung on his words. The stories he told were messy, filled with pain but also moments of resilience. Every revelation landed heavily, twisting faces with shock and concern, but Lydia couldn't take her eyes off him. Was he truly just a messenger or something more? As he spoke, a wave of realization hit her. The truths he shared were interlaced with her own memories, the buried secrets she had tried so hard to forget. The shadows she had felt so keenly now danced openly in front of her, and the walls of her carefully constructed life began to tremble. When he reached the climax of his story, a tale of betrayal and sacrifice, choices that had hurt others deeply, Lydia's breath caught in her throat. She looked at the faces around her, reflecting the mix of emotions she felt: fear, anger, but also revelation. How can we even begin to heal from this? Someone finally broke the silence, their voice trembling. Lydia opened her mouth, wanting to rally them, wanting to remind them of their shared strength. But what fell from her lips was a shakier question: what if facing the truth divides us more? The stranger looked right at her, and for a moment, he seemed to see through to her very soul. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to uncover the wounds hidden beneath the surface. You will have to choose whether you want to heal together or remain in the shadows. Lydia's mind spiraled. The weight of his words pressed down on her as a new fear gnawed at her. What if the bonds they had fought so hard to build were the very things that would shatter in the light of truth? With the emotional tension rising, she could sense the collective stakes increasing. There was no turning back now. The moment hung heavily in the air. What lay ahead? Would unraveling these mysteries bring them closer, or would they fall apart in the process? Just then, she heard a voice murmuring, someone questioning their path, uncertainty threading through the room once more. What truths remained hidden? And was she strong enough to face them? The answers, buried beneath layers of fear, were about to emerge. Panic spread through the room like wildfire. Lydia could feel it igniting around her, engulfing the faces she had grown to care about. Her heart raced as whispers surged, emotions collided, and uncertainty filled the air. The stranger had opened a door, and what lay beyond was yet to be determined. "Maybe we should just forget this," someone said, their voice quaking. "What's the point of dragging up the past?" Lydia's palms grew clammy. She could see nods of agreement alongside defiant shakes of heads. Competing thoughts swirled among the attendees: avoidance versus exposure, safety versus honesty. An invisible tug-of-war began in the room, and she stood at ground zero. "There's a reason we're all here," Jamal spoke up beside her. "We share more than just a market, we share a history. It's messy, yes, but it's ours." His voice, strong and clear, cut through the chaos. Slowly, eyes turned toward the stranger again. He remained calm, observing the shifting emotions like a seasoned fisherman, ready to reel in the catch. "You have the choice," he said, his tone soothing. "Hiding from your truths won't change them. It may even deepen your wounds." The quiet applause that followed surprised Lydia. One by one, people began to speak, sharing their own truths, their own fears. A woman standing near the back recounted how loss had turned her heart cold. A man shared a story of betrayal that felt all too familiar. Lydia's chest tightened, but it was bittersweet. There was liberation in honesty, even when it stung. As voices unraveled their experiences, tears glistened in several pairs of eyes. The healing began. But what if our shadows end up ripping us apart? Lydia finally managed to ask, her voice steadying with resolve. The room leaned toward her, breaths held in anticipation. "You have to decide what matters more, staying silent or coming together," the stranger replied, a knowing glint in his eyes. "But remember, healing can start with a single voice." Lydia realized it was time to step into the light. We may not have all the answers, but perhaps we need to keep asking questions. Maybe that's where we start. The softness reminded her of those fragile flowers, an invitation to grow amidst uncertainty. The air shifted again, lighter this time. Even laughter broke out unexpectedly, weaving through the tension like a thread stitching fabric back together. Faces that had once held fear now began to lighten, revealing a warmth that urged everyone to listen deeper, but just as Lydia thought they had found their footing, the stranger fixed his gaze upon her once more. "There are more hidden truths within your own life, aren't there, Lydia?" The room fell silent, the collective heartbeat palpable. It felt like the air had grown heavy again. Lydia's throat suddenly felt tight, revealing her unspoken burdens, the family's secrets tucked away, the fears that were too close to the bone. "Maybe some stones are meant to be left unturned," she whispered, her courage faltering as vulnerability washed over her. "No," he insisted gently, "sometimes we must confront these stones, not just for ourselves but for the community waiting to emerge from the shadows." In that moment, Lydia understood. The fears she held were part of a bigger tapestry. If she didn't step forward, how could she expect others to? "Okay," she took a deep breath, the words forming as she spoke, "I want to share." As she began to tell her story, vulnerability spilling out like water from a broken dam, she felt the warmth of solidarity embrace her. Tension in the room shifted again, it morphed into an electric undercurrent, uniting them all in raw honesty, but as she came closer to the heart of her truth, the stranger's expression changed. Shadows crossed his face, and concern flickered in his eyes. "Lydia," he said, interrupting gently, "you need to know, uncovering truths can have unexpected consequences. Are you ready for that?" Her heart raced, filling with both dread and hope. The path ahead stretched infinitely before her. Would this revelation rip them apart, or pull them closer together? What fresh shadows lingered just beneath the surface? The deeper she went, the more perilous the journey became. Lydia felt a knot in her stomach as the words hung in the air. The stranger's warning echoed in her mind, taunting her fears even as the warmth of connection surrounded her. A part of her wanted to back away, to hide from the truth she was about to unleash. But another part, the stronger part, urged her forward. This was her moment to step into the light and be heard. The room had shifted, people leaned in, faces etched with curiosity and concern. Lydia took a deep breath, and then another, grounding herself in the present. "I grew up with secrets, serious ones," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "There were things in my family's past that haunted us. Things I never shared out of fear, shame, you name it." A hush fell over the audience. She felt each pair of eyes on her, urging her to continue, and that gave her strength. The memories flooded back her childhood home, colored by hushed conversations and silenced tears. She could almost hear her mother's voice, a blend of hope and despair. "My parents, they carried burdens from their own pasts. The kind that gnawed at their spirits and bled into ours." She paused, searching their faces for understanding. "I remember fights that erupted over simple things, nasty words thrown like sharp knives. They never talked about what truly hurt them. All I knew was there was something lurking in the shadows." A hand shot up from the crowd, a man whose face was soft but tense. "Did anyone ever try to confront it?" he asked, his voice delicate yet firm. "No," she shook her head, tears prickling the corners of her eyes. "We just kept pretending. We built walls and put on happy faces. I thought it was safer that way." The stranger studied her closely, nodding thoughtfully. "The weight can sometimes feel lighter when shared, but it's painful to hold on." Lydia caught a glimpse of herself reflected in the faces before her. They were all there, survivors entangled in their own struggles, searching for something deeper. She continued, "I thought keeping quiet meant protecting my family. But all it did was create this invisible chasm. We couldn't even connect on important things." In the back, a woman gave a soft, understanding sigh, and Lydia felt a bond coiling tighter. "One of the most painful secrets I kept was about my brother. He left home, and we never knew why. When I finally found out," she paused, the weight of it crashing down on her. He was battling addiction. I never got to say goodbye. I thought if I didn't talk about it, it wouldn't hurt so much. But it always did. Gasps echoed through the room. Lydia's heart ached not just for herself but for all those who shared in the burden of unspoken truths. I kept that pain locked away. I thought silence was my shield, but it turned out it was my prison. The stranger leaned in closer. And now, by sharing, what do you feel? Relief washed over her, relief mixed with the heat of 1,000 emotions coursing through her veins. I feel free. It's scary to open up, but it's also a relief to let go of those stones. A tremor of understanding ran through the crowd. More heads began to nod in agreement. Lydia looked at each face, seeing their reflections, their own invisible chains loosening. Just as she thought she could breathe again, the stranger's tone shifted, taking on a serious edge. Remember, revealing truths, while liberating, can also unravel the strands of a carefully woven story. Are you prepared for the next step? Lydia felt her heart drop. The weight of impending consequences loomed large as uncertainty whispered its doubts. Could she bear more truth? Was she truly ready to carry whatever came next? She opened her mouth to respond, to reassure herself and the others, but the door creaked, and the moment hung suspended, pregnant with possibilities. What awaited her beyond that door? Something she had conviction to face, or a darkness that could swallow the light she had started to kindle? The answers beckoned tantalizingly ahead, and she had to decide. Would she forge ahead into the unknown, or slip back into the shadows of her past where everything felt safe yet suffocating? Fear clutched at Lydia's heart like an unyielding fist. The air in the room pulsed with anticipation, every gaze fixed on her like a spotlight. The stranger's words hung over them, a heavy cloud that threatened to unleash a storm. But even amidst the uncertainty, something shifted inside her. This wasn't just about her truth, it was also about the community that had gathered here, about the walls they had built and the connections they could forge anew. Taking a steadying breath, Lydia looked into the eyes of those around her. I won't shy away from what I have to say, she declared, her voice stronger now. But know this, the truth can be daunting, and it might take us to uncomfortable places. We all have secrets, burdens we carry. But together, we can lift them. The atmosphere in the room began to change. There was a collective inhale, a spark of recognition and bravery. She felt Jamal's hand squeeze her shoulder, an encouragement that made her heart swell. We're in this together, he whispered, matching her determination. The past can shape us, but it doesn't have to define us, Lydia continued, her words gaining momentum. We can choose to break the cycles of silence and pain. Embrace the light, even if it's faint. One by one, voices began to rise from the crowd, stories spilling forth like long-dammed waters. The elderly woman recounted her struggles with loneliness, a young man spoke of love lost to addiction, the pain etched on his face. Each testimony was raw and real. Lydia felt the energy morphing into something beautiful, binding them together like threads in a tapestry. As she shared her own story of her brother, of lost opportunities and regret, Lydia found strength in the eyes of her peers. For the first time in years, she felt seen, truly seen. The shadows that had haunted her didn't disappear, but they became a part of a bigger picture. The stranger remained in the background, observing, his expression inscrutable. When Lydia finished speaking, he stepped forward again, his eyes glimmering with an understanding that deepened the connection in the room. Every truth spoken is a step towards healing, he said quietly. But remember that each of you holds power to influence your narrative. What comes next is your choice. Lydia looked around and saw resolve in their faces. Emotions whirled, but so did hope. That was the crux of it, the choice to forge ahead together, brighter than their past. No longer would they dwell in isolation, they would embrace vulnerability, as terrifying as it was. Let us pledge to each other, she suggested, her voice echoing with newfound purpose, that we will share our burdens, listen without judgment, and uplift one another. This community belongs to all of us, and together, we can weather any storm. A ripple of agreement circled through the room. Then, surprisingly, the older man who had challenged her in the town hall stepped forward, his face softer, lines of frowns replaced by an expression of curiosity and respect. "I see now that fear sometimes disguises itself as protection," he admitted. "But perhaps it's time we left that behind." The crowd erupted into murmurs of affirmation. Lydia's heart soared. They were standing at the precipice of change, hand in hand as a community. They would face whatever lay ahead, fortified by their unity, emboldened by their acceptance. Lydia turned toward the stranger, who watched with a calm intensity. "Thank you for showing us the road back to ourselves." He nodded, an understanding passing between them. Every community deserves a second chance. Just ensure you nurture the light you've ignited. As the night wore on, laughter replaced trepidation. Stories flowed freely, woven with dreams of change and a bright future. Together, they shared food, music, and laughter, moments that brought them closer in ways they had thought were lost forever. Eventually, as the gathering began to wind down, Lydia stepped outside into the cool night air, the faint glow of moonlight urging her onward. Jamal joined her, his journey alongside her a sign of resilience. "I can't believe how far we've come," he said, gazing up at the stars. "It felt like just yesterday we were standing in that hall filled with so much doubt." "Exactly. Tonight was just the beginning," Lydia replied, her own heart racing with possibilities. "We did it together, Jamal. We forged connections that will bring our community to life. Let us keep that fire burning." As they walked away from the venue, hand in hand, Lydia felt renewal bloom within her soul. No longer paralyzed by fear, she now understood the power of collective vulnerability. They would rise above their pasts, bloom into a tapestry, bright and unbreakable. This was only the beginning. The darkness that had lingered for so long had started to fade, replaced by a radiant promise of togetherness. The dawn of a new chapter awaited them, standing on the edge of everything wonderful yet to come. Now more than ever, it was time to seize the moment ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.